Hey everyone, this is Ron Kavashkedo with Neowin, and today I have a couple of phones here from TCL. I have TCL 10L, TCL 10 Pro. So these phones were announced a couple of weeks ago during an online event, and they're part of the new TCL 10 series, which includes these two phones and then the TCL 10 5G, which is coming later this year. And it's the first phone sort of smartphone lineup that TCL is doing under their own brand. So if you don't know, TCL has been mostly responsible for Alcatel branded smartphones and then BlackBerry smartphones as well for a while. I believe that particular deal has expired now. But they never really made a lot of own branded smartphones before, at least in the US and in the West in general. But last year they released the TCL Plex, and I was super interested in that phone. I reviewed it, I really liked it. I just think it was a great value for the price because it had a Snapdragon 675 chipset, 6 gigabytes of RAM, 128 gigabytes of storage, and a very good display, pretty decent cameras, good design too. So it was a very complete package for €329. I was very happy about it. And now they have this full lineup that is more interesting in some ways, but also kind of questionable. I have some questions about this, and I'll get to them in a bit. But it's mostly got to do with the fact that the TCL 10 Plex was such a great value. And now looking at the specs and price for these phones, I have to wonder if you're getting the same kind of value that you were getting last year with the Plex. So I'm gonna talk about the 10L first, just because I think the Pro is more interesting, and I want to do that one last. So we're gonna start with this. On the inside, I think you can see some of the specs here. It actually doesn't talk about the internals. On the inside, this phone is a significant downgrade from the Plex. So you got a Snapdragon 665 instead of the 675 of the Plex. And you have still 6 gigabytes of RAM, so that's the same. And then the storage starts lower at 64 gigabytes instead of 128. But it's eMMC storage, it's not UFS 2.1 like it was on the Plex. So that's, I believe, a significant downgrade in terms of the speed that you're gonna get from those from that storage, and just loading apps and all of that. I think that's a significant downgrade. And this phone is about €50 cheaper in Europe, so this is gonna be 279. I believe the Plex launched at 329. And I feel like that's a big difference in the hardware to justify a relatively small, I would say, price difference. But let's just go ahead and take a look at it more directly. So even though the model on the box is the pearl white color, this one is actually not the pearl white TCL 10L, it's the Mariana blue. So you open the box, you get this little thing. This has the manual and the case inside. And I just want to point out that the case is now soft plastic. That soft soft touch plastic of sorts. And I'm really thankful for that because probably my biggest complaint, or one of my biggest complaints with the TCL 10 Plex was that the case it came with was a hard plastic, and it was so annoying to just try to put that on, take it off when necessary. It was really tight and just really hard to put on because it doesn't move, it's solid, right? So that was annoying, and I'm really glad that's not the case anymore. So then we have the phone here. Just before we get to that, real quick, we have the USB Type-C charging cable there. It's Type A to Type-C, of course. And then the charger itself here, which is 18 watts. It's not horrible. It is pretty standard for like mid-range phones, I guess. And it's still gonna be relatively fast charging, so that's fine. So we can set that to the side and we can take a look at the phone itself. So we slide it out of here, And let's start with the back here. So this is, like I said, the Mariana blue. It's a very dark blue. It's got a nice like reflective effect on it. It looks actually kind of nice. It's not like the most amazing looking phone ever, but it looks nice enough. And then you have, of course, a fingerprint reader there and the camera setup here. So this is the first big difference from the Plex that we're gonna, on the outside at least. So we got 4 cameras instead of 3, and the main camera is the same, so it's a 48 megapixel sensor with the quad pixel technology. And then it starts getting different very quickly, because then you have an ultra wide camera, but which you also had on the Plex, but the Plex had a 16 megapixel camera, and this one is just 8 megapixels. And then you have 2 other cameras that are both 2 megapixels. One of them is a depth camera, so for those portrait effects and all that stuff that some people like. I don't particularly care. And then you have a macro camera, which is also 2 megapixels, and it lets you take up close pictures of things. I don't like when phones have a wide angle camera and a macro camera as separate lenses. It feels like a waste of space. I've seen more than one phone that puts the macro function into the wide angle camera, and I think that's way more efficient. So whenever I see a macro camera separated from the main lens, and that's basically the only addition here, I just feel like it's not doing anything for me, and it's not really a good justification for a price increase or anything like that. But either way, so then you have 2 sets of flashes there. I believe they're both turned on at the same time when you use them, so it kind of helps illuminate the scene a little more. It looks fine. It does help with low light shots. Then going around the phone, we have SIM card slot. This is what TCL calls the smart key. So it's pretty much what you'd expect. You can summon the Google Assistant, but you can actually do anything you want with it. There's 3 activation modes for this. You can press once, press twice, or press and hold. And each of those presses will do something different. I think it's really useful. If it doesn't force you to use the Google Assistant, then it's great, because there's a lot of things you can do with this that you can do much more quickly now, because you have this key just for that. So I think that's a good addition there. And this is also on the Plex. I really appreciated it there. And I'm sure I'll appreciate it here as well. Then on the top here you have a headphone jack, a microphone. I believe that is a microphone. And then you can kind of see that the speaker grill here, the earpiece, is almost facing upwards. It's really interesting. I don't know if that's visible on camera, but it's kind of like right on the edge of the phone, which is not something I've ever seen, I believe. So that's interesting. Anyways, here on the side, volume rocker, power button, nothing special about that. Speaker grills here, there's another microphone hole in the speaker grill, and then the USB Type-C charging. And then here you have the display, of course. Let's turn that on. It does have a notch there, a punch hole cut out for the front-facing camera, which is another downgrade from the Plex, by the way, because this is a 16 megapixel camera, while the Plex had a 24 megapixel camera. I don't know for sure that this one supports that quad pixel technology. I know the Plex did. I would assume this one does as well, but I don't actually remember if it does. And then the display, like I said, 6.53 inches, Full HD, LCD. It looks fine. Like, I look at it, I don't really have a lot of complaints. The viewing angles are pretty darn good. I think if you look at it from down, it doesn't look as nice, but from the side it's fine. And from the top as well. Oh, and it looks like I already have an update waiting. Nice. So this is shipping with, let me just turn the sound off for that, with Android 10 now. So the Plex still came with Android 9, but this comes with Android 10. However, TCL's skin on top of Android is exactly the same, almost exactly the same. So the notification center here looks very, very similar. The settings app looks very, very similar too. You can see the biggest change right now is that there's a dark theme, because that's part of Android 10 itself. And now, thankfully, manufacturers are also putting it in their own skins, which I really appreciate. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Yeah, sure, whatever. But aside from that, it looks almost exactly the same. The settings app feels very familiar if you have even a pure Android experience. Usually this looks not that different. Let me increase the brightness here for the display. And I kind of like that. I already like TCL skin well enough. Didn't really have major complaints about it. So it is not bad, the fact that it hasn't changed. I will say I kind of see some sort of jittery animation here when I open the menu. It feels a little bit jittery, but everything else feels like fine enough. Scrolling, all of that feels fine. It's just that initial animation is weird. One change that I've noticed TCL made here that I really like is that now when you swipe to the left, most phones have something that, fills it in this space here. And to be clear, I don't really find any of them amazingly useful aside from Microsoft Launcher. But on the TCL Plex, TCL had this smart assistant thing that did basically nothing. It had, I think, the weather, maybe a step counter. I don't exactly remember everything, but it was the most useless thing it could have been. They're not the only ones to do that, but it was super useless. So now there's just a Google feed, which I think a lot more people won't find a lot more useful. You got news, you got the weather still, you get access to your Google Assistant stuff. You can just type the microphone there and search. So I definitely think this is better for the vast majority of people. I still don't care about it that much. I usually just use Microsoft Launcher, but this is definitely an improvement. Aside from that, everything else is pretty much the same. You got a bunch of TCL apps. Of course, you also have the Google apps, but TCL apps like Smart Manager, Browser, File Manager, Gallery, Music, Video, and then a bunch of pre-installed stuff. Netflix, Microsoft News. There was Booking.com for whatever reason. I actually already deleted that. So there is a little bit of bloatware, but not too much. And I think you can delete almost everything that's pre-installed here. So it's totally fine. I know some manufacturers don't even let you uninstall the pre-installed stuff. So this is an improvement. And then you have TCL things like Next Vision. Let's get to the update later. This is their HDR upscaling technology that makes things look a little better. Supposedly, it's definitely noticeable in this preview that they have here. I feel like I have a lot harder time seeing a difference in actual real life examples, but it's definitely visible there. And yeah, in terms of software, it's mostly the same. The Smart Manager still does that thing where it scans your phone for its health. Apps are running in the background and all of that, and it still does that thing where you swipe up with 2 fingers, you have a private space where you can just store secret files that you might have. But that's really about it in terms of software. I don't want to mention that the File Manager, I don't think this was the case before, but now it can connect to your PC and you can just manage your phone files from your PC. It does that through Wi-Fi. I haven't really had a chance to test that yet, but that does seem like a good addition. So I will be looking forward to that. But yeah, in terms of software, it's the same. My main concern is what I was saying about the price. So the selfie camera is not as good. The chipset is not as good. I feel like the camera setup is not as good because the ultra wide camera is more resolution, and then the 2 additional cameras here are just not as useful because the Plex had that thing where it had a 2 megapixel camera with very large pixels, and the goal of that was just recording low light video, and that felt like it had purpose. It was very unique. I don't think any other phone does that, and it really had added something different that no other phone has, and it worked. Now here we have this macro lens that should really be built into the wide angle, and then this depth lens that I really don't care about that much either. And this is only €50 cheaper than the Plex. So I don't know. If you have those extra $50, I would. I personally think I would go for that one, the Plex, because I don't know if this is a better deal. But then again, the Plex is not available in the United States. So if you're there, and this only costs $249 in the US, so that could be a pretty good deal. In that sense, I think it might be a better deal for US customers. But I don't know. I'll have to review it. So now we're gonna move on to the TCL 10 Pro. Now this is definitely the more interesting of the two, but it's also equally concerning. So look at the specs here, and it's got a Snapdragon 675, so it's the same as the Plex. 6 gigabytes of RAM, 128 gigabytes of storage, exactly the same as the Plex, right? So it's looking a lot similar on the inside. And this thing costs €499 or $449. So that's just a big difference. It's €170 more in Europe than the Plex was. And I don't know exactly how you can justify that. I mean, TCL has some explanation that comes down mostly to the design and the display, which has changed significantly. And they're gonna take a look at that. I still have some doubts, but we're gonna take a look at the phone and see just how different it is. So we're gonna take it out of the box. You're gonna see right away that the unboxing experience is also different. So the phone takes like center stage here, and it has its own sort of pocket. On the 10L, it was just on top of the charger and the cable. So now it has this thing just for the phone, and it's there. And then of course you still have the manual, the same kind of soft plastic case. I don't need to show you that again because it's the same concept. And of course charging cable and charging brick. So all the same here. This cable might actually be a little longer, I'm not sure. The big difference here, by the way, before I forget to mention it, both phones charge at 18 watts, but the 10 Pro can also charge other devices at 7.5 watts, I believe. So if you need to charge your headphones or something like that, you can use this as a battery. That's also partly because it is a bigger battery inside of this. Is 4,500 milliamp hours. The 10L only has 4,000 milliamp hours. And so yeah, in terms of the battery, that is a big improvement over the 10L and the Plex, which was even smaller. But now let's take a look at the phone itself. So I have to give TCL credit here. They say the design is a big justification for the price, and oh my word, is this phone beautiful. The camera does not do it justice from what I can tell, but this thing is gorgeous. The green, the gradient that's going on here from the top to the bottom, the way it changes in the light, this green is beautiful. So this is kind of the mist forest green, I believe. The other one is ember gray. I'm not sure what that looks like. I don't really care because I asked for this one specifically, and it's beautiful. I love it. It's just a nice effect, and it's super soft to the touch here. So you see that around the cameras they actually use the more traditional sort of glossy finish, but here it's this sort of matte finish. It's so soft. I love this. And then also around the edge here, the frame, it's aluminum like most phones are, but it's not that glossy aluminum that you usually see. Seems to have some sort of matte coating. It is so nice to the touch, and it just goes well. It goes really well with the color that they chose here. It's beautiful. It's really beautiful. I'm a little enchanted with this phone, if you can't tell. Anyways, going around it, very similar buttons here. They do seem a little more clicky here. So that's power button, volume rocker, headphone jack, microphone. This seems to be an IR blaster, which is not something you see very often. But if you have TCL home appliances, you can use this as a remote for those things, like your air conditioner, stuff like that. So you can control your home TCL home appliances using the infrared blaster here. It's pretty cool. Then of course still has a smart key there. On the bottom, only one set of speaker holes because they have the SIM card tray on the other side. So you have the speakers there, microphone, USB, Type-C again, and of course SIM card tray. And then of course on the front you have the display. I'll have to turn this on. And this is the second big upgrade from the TCL Plex and the 10L. This is an AMOLED display. It's still using TCL's Next Vision technology, so it's got all those HDR upscaling things and all of that. And in addition to being AMOLED, it is slightly curved. And I say slightly because a lot of phones that I see with curved edges, well, not a lot, a few, like curve very significantly. So then when you look at it straight on, like at the very edges of the display, you can see that the colors are shifting just a little bit. That doesn't happen here. This display looks amazing. Just looking at it like this, it looks really good. I need to mute that too. It looks really, really good. The colors look great. I love the way the background looks here. Same software, really nothing new here in terms of software. But the display just looks really, really good. And I assume obviously that does contribute to the added cost of this phone compared to the Plex. So I can't say that it's completely unjustified. The display looks, I love it. I love this display. It's not anything fancy like high refresh rates, nothing like that. It's not QHD either. It's still Full HD plus, but it looks really good. Probably because it's AMOLED, still has that TCL Next Vision stuff here. And putting it side by side with the 10L, I think you can kind of tell, at least I can in person, that I feel like the 10L's display has more of a tint to it that's not supposed to be there, and the AMOLED just looks a little more pure. I'm gonna try to turn off dark mode, maybe that makes it a little easier to see. But if you look at the screens here, I feel like that there's a bit of a tint to the 10L display compared to the 10 Pro. Now they're both at max brightness, and you can tell also that the 10 Pro seems a little brighter. But I feel like the 10 Pro does look a little better there. Maybe that's, again, just me, but you'd expect that from a more expensive phone, so that makes sense. And of course there are other things here that are different from the 10 Plex and the 10L. So the camera is now in a notch, more traditional notch there. You can barely tell because the background of the phone is very cleverly made to disguise that, but there you go. There's the notch. Still 24 megapixels, so exact same as the Plex. Not a big upgrade in that regard. And then the back as the cameras, and those are a significant upgrade in some ways. So you have a 64 main camera now instead of 48 megapixel. And you have the same ultra wide 16 megapixel camera, but now you also have that macro lens that's new, 2 megapixels or 5, that's 5 megapixels actually on this phone. Again, same thing with it not being built into the wide angle. I don't like that. I feel like that's useless. But I don't know, maybe that's just me. And of course you still have, in this one you still have that low light video camera. So 2 megapixels, 2.9 micron pixel size. So it's huge pixels. I tested this on the Plex and it actually made a very big difference for the recording quality of videos. Low light videos was so much more visible because of that. So that's very useful, but again, almost exactly the same as the Plex. It's really just making a better main sensor and adding in a useless macro lens, I would say. So I have a hard time here thinking about how that justifies a €170 price increase over the Plex. With that being said, I cannot give enough credit to TCL for this look. It looks so good. I'm really excited to just use this phone and look at it because it's beautiful. It just is. And yes, and like I said, in terms of software, it's the same, so it's no use going over that again. I am excited to review, especially this one. I will do this one first in terms of the review. the 10L will come later. And of course, I will let you know if it is worth the price increase over the Plex or not. But yeah, I'm interested in reviewing both of these, and I will be doing that in the coming weeks. So thanks for watching. I hope you guys liked that video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.